Well, Anna, thank you for joining us on the wire.
Thanks for having me, Aspen.
So the government had 1,049 days between the report being tabled and releasing their response on Tuesday. And the response came on one of the fullest news days of the year. Of course, all eyes were on the federal budget. They say that it's coincidence. What do you think?
Oh, there's no coincidence at all. I think it's definitely been done that way so that there would be less attention because there's been more attention than the government has liked.
Okay. Let's go to the substance of the response. So famously, the original report recommended working towards an outright ban on advertising for online gambling.
Mm-hmm.
This response has not gone that far. It's focused on some time-based restrictions for broadcasting and some user-based restrictions and an ability to opt out when people are online. How effective do you think that approach will be to protect people from gambling harm?
Well, it's a very minor version of what was recommended in the report. And if we look at it as a first step, then that's fine. It's a first step. But what we would like to see is at least a 5-year timetable to incrementally reduce and eventually end all gambling advertising, and because it's a dangerous product. It's an adults only dangerous product that should never be promoted as widely as it is. We need a public health approach to this the way we did with tobacco.
Mm-hmm. Okay. That's it's interesting that you mentioned public health because I was interested in some other points in the response. There are some commitments to expand financial counselling support and also to increase public awareness of online gambling harms. But I'm really interested in your expertise coming from your lived experience and the lived experience of others. Do you think supports like that help people in practice when they're experiencing gambling harm?
I think they're essential when you've actually got to the point where gambling is harming you. Some really strong supports is essential. I don't know anybody who managed to stop all by themselves. I certainly didn't. It took years to extract myself from what gambling was doing to me and the way it had rewired my brain. And financial support is really essential. But that's what some people would call like an ambulance at the bottom of the cliff. We need to do more than that. We need to prevent the harm from happening in the first place.
Okay. How do you think the harm would be prevented in the first place?
If we took a public health approach and that we saw that this is a product that should not be promoted the way that it is, if the ban, the eventual complete ban on all gambling advertising and promotion would mean that we would stop our children and our grandchildren and their children from being shown that gambling is like a normal part of life, never mind a normal part of sport, which is the way it is at the moment. And those young people, those children, some of them are toddlers talking about the odds. Now that's really bad. That if we stop that from happening, then we're not going to have these next generations and generations of generations who need financial counselling and other counselling because they're experiencing gambling harm.
Mm-hmm. So you don't get a serious intention from this response that the government wants to take a future-focused approach and a public health approach.
No, not yet.
Okay.
We
Um,
hope, but we don't even have a national regulator. That's something that could be put in place. The gambling companies are mostly regulated by a group in the Northern Territory who do not a very good job of it.
yep. Okay. So this issue has been litigated for nearly 3 years now since the
Mm,
report came out.
mm,
We do have this response now, but there is quite a bit of cynicism or even, potentially despair about the
mm,
possibility of really changing the story on this issue.
mm.
So what do you think the government can do to regain trust?
Well, it would be really good if they would actually listen and invite more of us with lived experience to the table for these conversations. If we had a more balanced input to government people, the Prime Minister, for instance, has refused to meet us. I've been politer about it in the past, but now I'm just going to say we've asked several times and he said no. how can he make these decisions and do this stuff without having heard firsthand what actual gambling harm actually looks like and what it does? Because this is a life-threatening thing. People die because of this. How can he do this without being prepared to look us in the eye and say, "This is as much as I'm going to do"?
Yeah, not much to say to that.
No.
Yeah. Well, I can't get the message to the Prime Minister, but I can get it into our show, and perhaps it'll get back to him.
And I would like to encourage your listeners to contact their local member and tell them what they think, that something needs to be a stronger response. Contact the Prime Minister's office and tell him there needs to be a stronger response. Eventually, I like to think our politicians are there with the best intent, and I hope that one day they'll listen.
Okay. Thank you, Anna. Thanks for talking to me.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Okay. Goodbye.
Bye.